Hey, what's up guys, it's Benbonk and welcome back to the 14th Slimekeep devlog. In this devlog, I made a few art changes along with creating the outline for a slimebook/slimepedia. So without further ado, let's get into the video. The first thing I did was some brainstorming on how the game's progression would work. Someone suggested that I should make a tent system or something similar to show that the player was moving away from their house. Though this made me question my game because I wanted the player to be able to fight the Slime King whenever he wants, and for the player to be moving away from the house, that wouldn't make that much sense if you could just fight the Slime King anytime. So I had to brainstorm ideas for progression, and the explanation on why you can fight the Slime King whenever you want. The first idea that I had was my original plan, and it was that the player was never actually leaving the vicinity of where he lives, and the Slime King lives very close to him, explaining why the corruption affects him, and why you can fight the Slime King whenever he wants. The fighting that the player does would also be like training, and serves the purpose to prepare the player to fight the king. The second idea I had was to create a tent placing system, where the player could place a tent wherever he wanted, and start a new day. Then the player would have to play out 5 days or so, and journey to the keep. Then once the player was there, he could fight the Slime King or explore and prepare more. I ended up sharing these ideas to my Discord server, and after a poll and some discussion with a few members in the community, I settled on the first idea as I thought it was a little more original and easier to implement than the second idea. So that's a little about progression plans and structure. Now the first actual thing I worked on was importing this house inside spreadsheet made by PolarCube on my Discord server. Huge thanks to PolarCube for making this art for the game, and I think it looks absolutely amazing. I spent some time setting up the tile set in Unity, and then drew up a house inside layout. After all that was done, here's what it looked like. As you can see, I can walk in the house, and I think it looks really nice. I can also collide with everything in the house. However, my job here wasn't done. I still had a few things to patch up. The first of those being that my slime pet was just sliding around the outside of the house, and it looked really weird. I also need to fix some colliders and set up the bed, so after this was done, everything was looking much better. The next change I made was to the slime pet. For a while now, I think the slime pet has been too large in comparison to the player, and I made it like this because I was planning to redraw the player sprite, though I'm not sure if I'll end up doing that. So I created these new slime animations and sprites that were a smaller version of the already made slime pet. After setting these up into Unity, here's what the new slime pet looked like. I'm actually really happy with how he turned out, and I think his size looks much more appropriate. I also think he looks very similar to the old slime pet, just shrunk down a little bit, which is something I'm really happy I achieved. Next up was a small glitch that I had to fix, which was sometimes my rooms would close too early. After looking into the problem, I found out that it was an issue with my room colliders, so I patched it up and we were good. Also, just to let you guys know, I've been working on drawing a few bigger enemy rooms, so don't worry, you hopefully won't get cornered in a fight, and the rooms in the final game should be much bigger than the current rooms right now. But before I continue on with the video, I would like to thank the sponsor of this video, Core. Core is a new free game creation platform that allows you to build, publish, and play games. If you're just starting out with game development, Core is a great choice and allows you to quickly create your own games, and is especially useful if you want to set up a 3D multiplayer game. And the best part is, you don't even need to know how to code, so you can get started making games instantly with their thousands of free, high-quality music, sound, and art assets, with no coding required. But if you'd like to go deeper, feel free to create your own game logic in Lua. You can build games completely from scratch or remix and reimagine content from other Core users. And when you're ready to publish, your game will go live on the Core platform, all with the click of a button. Core also handles all the hassle involved with multiplayer networking for you. Core also recently announced their Student Game Dev Hackathon Jam with $10,000 in prizes. So if you're currently a student, make sure to check that out. So feel free to check out Core. It's completely free, so you can head over to coregames.com or visit them by clicking my link in the description. Now, I was just kind of stuck on what to work on, so I checked my Trello board, and I figured I might as well start on an idea that I had for a slime book/slimepedia. My plan for this book was for it to be a multi-purpose book that the player could access at any time. This book would serve as a pause menu and hold tons of information about slimes, weapons, bosses, and a load of other stuff, similar to Enter the Gungeons and Monomicon. But I really like the idea of having the slime book hold more than just bestiary stuff, so I wanted to make sure to include a settings menu, a table of contents, an enlarged minimap, possibly some lore stuff, and a bunch of other stuff. This was a lot of things to put in the book, so I really want to make sure it was well organized and easy to navigate, and not just feel like I was cramming a bunch of stuff into one book because it could look cool. I got to working on the book and setting up basic stuff like pausing the game and showing an image when the player opens the book. Then I made some more changes, and now the book was looking much more in the shape of a book. I made sure to make it so you can't shoot, move, or anything like that just by simply using time.delta-time. Next, I started setting up some placeholder images for the book UI. After that, I had to figure out how I should try to flip the book pages. This was by far the biggest challenge in creating this book. I thought I could do something like flipping the page's scale and moving it to the opposite direction, though I was still unsure on how to execute this. After being lost for quite a while, I just decided to see if there are any tutorials or assets on how to create a good looking page flip effect. I really wanted something that looked cool, like Return of the Obra Dinn's book, which is a really nice page flip effect. After countless hours of Google searching, I was left mostly empty-handed. However, I did find this book asset on the Unity Asset Store that looks pretty nice. But with further inspection, I found out that in order to add the UI elements to the pages, I would need to purchase the premium version for $15, and I could have just paid that price and moved on, but I held off. Now, I was really lost. Should I try to make this book on my own? Should I just purchase the asset? Or should I look even harder for tutorial? My biggest issue that I thought of was making the page flip effect look realistic, and I didn't think I would be able to do that on my own. I definitely considered purchasing the asset, but at the same time, I just really wanted the satisfaction of knowing I made something by myself, and I guess I wanted a bit of a challenge. So I decided to do some more research to see how I could create this on my own, and I realized that I should probably be using a tweening library if I want to animate UI elements. And if you didn't know, tweening libraries are basically just allow you to animate objects through code, which can be better for performance, especially on UI objects, at least from what I can tell. After researching a bit and some recommendations from BW Dev, I settled on DoTween, a very popular tweening library in the Unity community. I followed a few tutorials and found out that DoTween was surprisingly very simple to set up and get running. One line of code and boom, I had a smooth animation. I could definitely see how I could use tweening for many other things in my game. I then wrote 2 lines of code that could create a kind of flipping effect. I thought it looked surprisingly good, and all I was doing was flipping the object's scale and moving the position at the same time. Next, I set it up so I could use the arrow keys or A and D to flip the sprite, and I thought those looked promising, so I left it there and got back to working on the book's functionality. I started by creating a bunch of pages inside the book, and then worked quite a while on a script that would allow me to cycle through the pages with the arrow keys or A and D. I did this by creating an array that would store all the pages that the book has. Then I would have a page index variable that would determine what set of pages the player is on. So when I flip a page right, for example, I'm increasing the current page's index and setting the appropriate pages to active, and then deactivating the unused pages. And this ended up working, as you can now open up the book and cycle through all the pages. Now, I wanted to make a book entry animation, and this sounded super simple, though it ended up costing me hours upon hours to figure out. Basically, my tweening animations would never seem to move to the right place, and they would always act up. I was stuck for hours, though eventually I found out that I needed to use local move and local scale instead of the regular functions in DoTween. Huge thanks to BW Dev for helping me figure this out and helping me a ton with tweening. But now the player could press tab to open the book, and a nice smooth animation would play, and a similar animation would play when the player closes the book. So that was really nice. Though I still had a lot of work to do under the hood. For example, I spent some time making it so you can't flip pages until the book is open, making it so you can't close the book until the book is open, etc. I then copied my old page flip code and tried to create a somewhat good looking page flip effect. This was much easier said than done, though I was slowly making progress, and here you can see I had the animation set up, though there's still a lot of work to be done. Some more programming later, and the effect was slowly getting there, though of course there were many issues. Again, some more work, and now the page flip animation was actually looking good. Though this was all visual, and there was still a ton of code needed to be written. So I wrote some code, and after another work session, I had this. The page flipping was actually working pretty well, and I thought it actually looked pretty good. If you're wondering how I accomplished this effect, I just scaled the page that you're flipping to 0, and then moved it to the spine of the book. I then swapped the page and did a similar effect to get it moved to the correct location from the spine. The book still had a few glitches, though I think it was looking really good already. I wanted a break from working on the pages, so I created this simple fade effect using tweening yet again. Again, it was surprisingly easy to create this effect, and sooner than later I could open the book and the background would fade to dark. Now I wanted a way to flip through a certain page somehow. I really don't want the player to have to flip through every page in their way in order to get somewhere. So I made a flip to certain page function that would take in a page index and would flip the page there. I could use this function for the table of contents, possibly hotkeys, and more. So after setting things up, I tried testing this out. Here you can see I flipped to pages 5 and 6, and then I pressed my hotkey and flipped directly to the first 2 pages. Now this was looking good, though unfortunately there were a bunch of issues after I would try to flip pages after I pressed the hotkey. I had to do a lot of debugging, and eventually I found out that my pages would follow this 0101 scale pattern, which was a result of the flipping effect. But when I did the flip to the certain page function, it would mess up this pattern and break everything. So I proceeded to patch up this by messing with the page scales after they've been flipped, along with their positions, and now the flipping a certain page effect was actually working. I could flip their pages regularly, but in this example, I could flip the pages 7 and 8 whenever I wanted. With this working, I decided to start creating a basic placeholder table of contents system. This was super easy because I pretty much had all the code work done for me, and when the player clicked a button, all I'd have to do is call the flip to certain page function, and pass in a page. It was working as expected, and I also made Q a hotkey for going directly to the table of contents page. I also changed around the open book function to take in a page index when called, so I can open the book to a certain page whenever I open the book. I did this because I wanted the different buttons to open different pages when you click them. For example, the escape key might auto-open to the settings menu page, or tab might open to the minimap page, just because I think this would be more natural to the player. And here you can see this in action. I can press one button that opens to pages 1 and 2, and then I can press another button that opens to pages 3 and 4. Now the book's functionality was pretty much done, at least for now, so I started making a sprite for the slime book, and after many renditions I ended up with this. And it definitely isn't my best work, so I'll just have to redo it sometime. I then worked on some concepts for pages. I tried a bunch of different designs, and I was most happy with having the page have an outline and then a symbol on the top to represent what that page has on it. I ended up making a ton of different pages with different symbols for the slime section, the boss section, the weapon section, along with unique pages for all the different settings menu pages. After hours of creating pages, I imported them into Unity and was left with this. I'm really happy with how the page designs turned out, and I think they look really nice, but I still have to work on the outside of the book and other art for the book, but I think it's just a really good start. The last thing I did in this devlog was make a speed flip system, but all this really was just changing the input mode from get key down to get key, which allows the player to hold down keys to instantly flip pages when they're finished flipping. I considered making a speed flip system that would make the pages flip faster if you held them down for longer, but I just held off on it for now. So that's the end of the devlog, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. Just to let you guys know, the next devlog won't be out for a while as I'm hosting a game jam, which if you haven't joined, make sure to check it out. Though when the devlog does come, I should be adding a minimap and possibly a fog of war effect into the game. Also, make sure to check out Core, the link is in the description. And if you like this video, a like or sub would be massively appreciated because we're getting so close to 10,000 subscribers. Well, that's all I have to say, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.